Hi, and welcome back to the Growl podcast, everybody. I am the Lady Lioness, and I'm here with my co host, Nicholas Tannick from the Your Kinky Friends podcast. Hi, Nick.
Hello, hello, hello.
So each week, what we do here is we hunt down the topics you crave and the people that you want to hear from. And we go live typically every Monday night at 8 p.m. Tonight, we had to shift a little bit later due to scheduling conflicts. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, and sticking with us. We explore that inner growl, that inner fire that people bring to their practice of kink, and what really drives us to do what it is that we do. What I would love for you guys to do is like and subscribe the Growl channel so that you can stay up to date on everything that we do. Smash that notification bell. You'll get notified when smash it. You'll get notified whenever we go live or whenever we release a video. Before we begin, just a quick reminder. The things that we talk about on this show and on this channel are definitely adult in nature. So if you are under 18, you should probably stop watching. This show is meant for the adult audience. Everything we talk about is consensual. It's safe. It's sane. And that's what we're all about.
Yes. Yes. It's a culture. It's a lifestyle. It's a culture. We're good people. And the people, we're good people. Seriously. Don't judge.
We certainly are. So tonight, we have a very special guest.
I'm excited about this.
Sea Aphrodite. She is quite the sensation. Imagine this. Okay. You're a high-powered finance executive by day, Ivy League educated, raising a family in the suburbs, living the picture-perfect vanilla life. But at night, you step into the shadows of New York City as one of the most desired, most sexy, most followed lifestyle femdoms on FetLife. This is a woman who values anonymity. She values her privacy, and the people that play with her care for and respect her enough to help her maintain that. So the fact that her profile on FetLife has almost 200,000 followers, that's incredible. From a woman who doesn't show her identity. I mean, part of that is I guess what lends itself to the hotness of it all. But the fact that, you know, she's got that fire, like she is doing it and doing it well.
Right.
That's right. So a couple of the things that
let's find out how she's doing it.
A couple of things that she's known for is collecting firsts, and it plays into her ownership kink. And I have to say, this is her first live podcast. So this is all around an exciting.
So you said first, correct? So
yes.
Should I say something like the Virgin Surgeon?
The Virgin Surgeon. I mean, she's got plenty names, I'm sure.
I'm sure she's got plenty names. I took that from a Harmony Korine film. Anyway.
So one of the things about her that I found incredibly fascinating and inspiring, I mean, there's plenty, but one of the things is that she does not monetize her her femdom lifestyle. She lives it. And tonight we're going to go really deep into what it means to be owned by her. So without further ado, I would love to welcome our guest. Hello, Sea Aphrodite. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm listening to you guys talk about it. This is my first time, so I guess bear with me, right? I'm on a learning curve, but I'm excited.
It is an absolute honor. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for your time and your attention and your energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
let's get it rolling.
I've got you as an avatar. So for those of us at home that are listening, we're not seeing your face. We're valuing your privacy, and your voice is disguised. So that way, you know, there's just total respect for how you choose to practice your kink and in a private way. So let's welcome Domina C, or Miss Sea Aphrodite. Thank you so much for being on the show. When a mutual friend suggested that you come on our show, and that was born out of a comment on FetLife. It was like instant butterflies in my belly. And then when you responded and we connected, it was a pure moment of honor for me. And as an ethical and loving practitioner of kink myself, I knew that once I started researching you, that you were going to be one of those high impact guests here as far as the message and what we stand for here on the Growl. You have that fire, you have that light, you have that crave, and you seem to balance it really beautifully with the other aspects of your life. So I applaud you in that, my dear.
Thank you. Can I just say it's funny because when you were sort of setting it up as like by day a finance professional, but by night. And the fact is that by night I'm usually putting both my kids to bed and go to bed early. That's what I do at night. So what I actually do in terms of playtime, like people know this, like who play with me 90% of the time is really daytime weekdays when the kids are off school. Picture this, right? In a beautiful suburb, like a nice big house. People will come and play at the house while the kids are in school, which is a little wild, but we've gotten used to this sort of, and people come from the city, they take the train. Sometimes I kidnap them from the train station, which means I sort of pick them up the train. I put like handcuffs on them and a hood, and it's like I've kidnapped them in my car. Sometimes they obviously just drive to the house. And we do this because we're trying to balance, like, that I basically almost never am willing to trade off time with my kids. I have some flexibility. I work from home, and so I'm able to kind of manage this around, let's say, calls that I have or meetings. Maybe I have like a lunchtime break for a couple of hours that I can do a scene. And then in the summer, and we're very blessed because the kids love their sleepaway camps. They go away for 7-8 weeks. And during those 7-8 weeks, that's when we can do some nighttime stuff and some weekend stuff. And then during the school year, I will say there's a couple of bigger parties or sort of annual things that we do host, that we do take a weekend for, but it's very, very rare. So it's almost like the opposite of the kind of, by night, in New York City. It's actually daytime in the suburbs, which is kind of crazy, but it works, and it's definitely worked for balance for me.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's not easy when you want to put the equity into being a mom. I feel that entirely. You want to put the equity in, you still want to honor your kinky self. So you really reach a good balance. You're in that. I said to you earlier today, I said, you're in that Goldilocks zone of practicing ethical kink and doing what you want to do and managing your vanilla element also. So you are doing well.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate.
All right. So let's talk about your origin story. You met your husband very early on in life. You were teenagers, let's say high school sweethearts, and that's adorable and extremely rare, as you know. So tell us about how you and Mr. Sea Aphrodite met. Walk us through your love story.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to, sanitize a few of the details, right? To not make it so recognizable. But we grew up in the suburbs, very near each other, sort of adjoining school districts nearby. And we were both quite active in high school in a basic community service organization, right? You're kind of doing community service, building a resume for college type of thing. And so we did see each other a number of times at some of these events. And then this kind of integral moment came basically where he lost his date to his junior prom very last minute. I think she had death in her family, and he was trying to find himself a new date very, very quickly. And he remembered that he had seen me at some events and thought that I was cute. And he was also misinformed. He'll tell you he thought that I was older than him, so he thought I was a senior, but I was actually a freshman. And he thought that maybe because I was a senior, I could drive because he couldn't drive yet. And that somebody had told him that we had a live-in nanny for my little sister, like a live-in maid. And so he thought maybe she's rich. So he was misinformed on many levels. And so he basically he asked a mutual friend if he could call, get my number. This is the 1990s. There's no cell phones. He had a break from work and he went to a payphone and called me from a payphone and asked me to his junior prom. And here I am, a freshman. Our school district was less cool than his. So this is like at the cool high school. I'm being asked to go to a junior prom. And I couldn't care less who was asking. I was absolutely going to go, and that's kind of how it started. Basically, we went on that first date, which was the junior prom. We had a couple of weeks before the prom, came, and we sort of were talking every day. or rather I was talking to him while he was trying to beat, I think, a Sonic the Hedgehog game in the background. And so he was occasionally saying, and yes, just to make sure that the conversation kept going. And then we had this lovely date and we went out, we had the prom, we actually went out to dinner and a movie also because we were just trying to pack it all in. And it just sort of started, I think, like what was then, again, kind of an innocent, right? The 1990s, a relationship that we continued to grow as he sort of finished high school. And then he, stayed nearby for community college and kind of waited for me to finish high school. And we have all these like touch points, all these like crazy things. Our 1 year anniversary, I gave him a beeper, his first beeper. A pager for young.
You remember those?
Don't know what it is, right?
143. Love
yeah,
you.
I used to message him, and then if he wouldn't get back to me fast enough, I would write SOS, or whatever, where 911, so he would he would call me back. So so this was a really good, just kind of a meeting of I think very very aligned people. I'm not of the opinion that you find a single soulmate in life. I think if you are like average picky as a person, then maybe 1 in sort of 200 people will be somebody that you can make a life with. And if you're very, very picky, maybe it's 1 in 500. So you have to kind of meet 500 people and find one, right? And then I think the rest of it is just muscle. Like you just do it, and you don't like let it go. And of course, there are reasons to let things go. There's sort of terrible like disconnects between people or kind of real good reasons, right? Where people can't make a life together. But that hasn't been the case for us. And so then I think it's just that kind of effort. So it's not that, it was some magic that I met the only person who was right for me when I was 14. I think it's more that we were good for each other. And then we just sort of made it a real commitment to grow together and to hang in there. And it's been really good. And I think sometimes you look and say maybe the grass could be greener somewhere else, but then you just say, no, I'm making the life here that I'm making, and I'm committed to it. So
I mean,
beautiful.
relationships. Yeah, it's beautiful. Relationships have seasons, and I love how you guys navigate it together.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Oh my God. All right. Right. So, walk us through a scene, just so people. First of all, I'm learning about you with the audience, pretty much. I did a little research, but I wanted to be surprised. But Linus did,
I do the deep digging. That's
the deep digging.
That's my thing.
And usually, I'm so glad that you do too, because I used to have to do all of it. So please, let's just set the stage so people know what they're dealing with. I was told you are the twink whisperer.
I coined
whisperer,
her that,
right? It's great. The twink whisperer. That should be a movie. It should be a series, an erotic book, or YKF from YKF Press. So, so please take us to a scene. Let's be whimsical for a second. Let's say, or the audience, or the audience is a very, very charming, very, very good looking. Young twink-like man is very good-hearted, but is in desperate need of guidance, and really captured your attention.
I get a lot of that. Yeah. Well,
So please explain take us through a scene and as much detail as possible, but what is expected basically? Because when I hear like the twink whisperer, I'm honestly just thinking that you are teaching men to suck cock.
Sure, and I am absolutely. And I'm quite good at it, so I get good technique, and I think they graduate the program with good skills.
We're gonna get down in the show, so take us through the typical scene of that. Like what would that be like?
Let me connect that to where we started, right, with Mr. C.
Perfect. Okay, great.
It isn't just sort of like twinks like out of nowhere, right? So Mr. C and I, because we started very early, and I've said this before, I think by the time, and we're both, very communicative, right? We know how to express ourselves really well. We're both smart, we're both creative. And so we sort of went through the vanilla pantheon very quickly at the ages of sort of 14, 15, and he was 16, 17. Like the first time we had sex, he went home afterwards to his mom's, back to his house, and he called me right away and said, "Are you And I thought, I love this man. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was doing the
Aw.
aftercare, he was checking in, and like, what the
Aw.
17-year-old boy, right? So we had a lot of trust. The first time he went down on me and he like didn't really do a great job of it, I wrote him a letter with diagrams, so that he could like, if you're
I love
rotate
you.
this way and then rotate it that way. And he was open to that sort of feedback. And so then, we were kind of
wait, hold on a second. Back up a second. When you hand him that, what's his initial reaction?
He's just great. Like, he's never, like, he's always nonplussed. You know what I mean? He read it. He was like, he's gonna learn from it. We've always had a very good, even today, like, we just like laugh a lot, we joke a lot. We've kind of like retained the 14 and 16 version, even though we're 44 and 46. And so that kind of sense of humor and openness, I think, that is different than
I think it's awesome.
Adults. Because I think when you meet as adults, you're quite fully formed, and you have a little bit of like guardrails or a fence around yourself, right, around your real self. But when you're 14, you are not like that. You're not guarded in any way, and so you let the person in right away, and then that's it. They know you from the beginning. So, but my point is that we basically very quickly like cycled through the vanilla stuff and then moved on to like, it was baby kink, but it was kind of like, some bondage, some sensory play, some this, some that. Like, we went to a movie theater and I wore a trench coat with nothing underneath, like just kind of like things, right? Like definitely beyond our years. And then by the time he was 18, we would go into the city because he, was 18. So he could go into one of like the Pink Pussycat or the Tic-Tac-Toe, was like, one of the sex shops, and buy us some toys and things to play with and outfits and role play. And anyway, and so if you're doing that when you're 16 and 18, everybody around you is literally just trying to get to second base. And so you look at them and they look like prey, because you know so much more than they do. And it's not in a negative way, in the sense that, like, you're kind of like, I just want to show you how amazing this can be. And then that's kind of what motivated, I think, both of us, right, in terms of wanting to kind of share that with others, right? And so from the twin perspective, right, so growing up in high school, I was straight, or I felt like I was straight. I had like one crush on a girl towards the end of high school, so that kind of indicates to me that maybe I wasn't. And then by the time we got into college, we definitely were doing a lot more exploring. And we were playing with women together. And I, like, was playing with guys, and he was playing with girls on his own, and all these things. And so you definitely have a type. And what I found I really liked was a very androgynous looking person. So the first woman that I really had just a massive crush on was quite androgynous looking, in terms of her body type and her kind of short hair. And so that sort of persisted with me. And so the kind of twink or femboy style partner is something that I've liked, all of these years. And at some point, of course, they were my age, and now they're not. But this sort of attraction is basically this kind of, like I said, this sort of androgynous person that presents with characteristics that are both masculine, so maybe muscular, right, kind of like a boy's body, but then very soft lips and some like a little bit of a feminine energy. And
for the audience. For the audience, is there a movie star or a famous person that we could like connect to, that picture in our mind maybe of someone?
I mean, I think the classic is Timothy Chalamet, although he's getting a bit long in the tooth for me, right? Because he's, I think, 30. But yeah, I think that sort of style.
Oh, I'm gonna ask Shari if Timothy Chalamet is long in the tooth. She's gonna dig it.
I mean, I'm teasing, but not. But yes, I mean, he's a good-looking guy. But yeah, I think that's sort of. I mean, we actually have a lot of these role models now. On all the kind of younger, because my daughter and I watch TV like shows, and like I think that is now the style of masculinity is sort of more like less characteristically masculine, a little bit more kind of crossover, right?
Yeah, I see that also.
Yeah.
A softer way.
It's all come to me. It's all like evolved in my direction, and then pegging too. If we were to kind of go back, right? Like, something that I like. It was very early days, and when I was younger, very few men were even willing to give it a go. And now I think there's a lot more openness. So I'm almost like, I'm very grateful that the universe basically continues to grow in my direction. In terms of what is attractive in males, or kind of what people are open to, in terms of play. I feel like it's all coming towards me.
I love that. Yeah, I think energy matches energy. I love that. So let's continue in the vein of pegging.
In the scene, right? The kind of description of a scene, right?
Yes.
Which includes pegging usually. So I actually posted a picture once of a partner who was kind of kneeling, in my inside my front door in the foyer, and I sort of had a caption that wrote about like what do you expect when you first arrive? It's sort of twofold. One is you should expect something along the lines of what you've told me you're interested in, right? Because I start out in preparation. What I want to hear from someone is kind of what are your interests? Like what really turns you on? Where are your fantasies? And what are your limits, right? Because I want to be respectful of those. So soft limits, hard limits, kind of like where do you want to be pushed? Where do you really not want to go? And then especially, as you said, I think, Lioness, like the first, right? What have you been dreaming about, but have never had a chance to try? So give me a list of all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. Like I'm not giving you any kind of play-by-play. It's all going to be like a surprise in a way, but it's going to be within those guardrails. Like you've given me basically the paint, right? And I'm going to just paint the painting the way I want.
And you're the facilitator of fantasy. Yeah, that's what makes
right.
you that.
And in my head, because I'm quite an OCD person, right? There is a bit of a checklist in the sense that it's exciting to me to be able to weave it together in a way where somebody has said, I want to be collared, I want to be, I want to do bondage, I want to try impact, I want to try body worship, I want to try face sitting, I want to try sucking dick, I want to, try pegging. It's kind of incredible to sort of build something organic that flows naturally. And over a 2 or 3 hour period, you hit on all of those things in some way, right? Not all of them. I mean, it's like I said. And a lot of times I don't really know what it's going to look like until the person arrives. So for example, I may lay some things aside, right? A gag or collar or a leash, but a lot of times I want to see the person up close, and I want to see their body before I decide what kind of, let's say, outfit I want to put on.
Absolutely.
And then I want to sort of see their reaction to certain things before I decide what comes next. So a lot of it is just like, people will sometimes say, like, what do you plan to do? And I don't have a plan. I have these guardrails or sort of broad strokes, but really I want to grow through the scene with the person, and I want to watch their reactions, and I want to see what excites them and how it's sort of going for them. And that's how I want it to flow. There will be, obviously I have to prepare. So if somebody has said that they are, let's say, a young guy, right? So twink, wants to experience like a mommy and daddy dynamic. So he wants an older guy there for some portion of the scene, right? Where he can be forced to sort of service him. Or maybe he just wants a boy his own age, right? Something kind of more equitable, right? Where they're both serving me together, but also getting to play with each other a little bit, getting to kiss, getting to, 69 or whatever it is. Obviously, you can't completely let's just let it flow, because you have to invite the other person.
Of course.
They have to be available, their schedule, right? And so those sorts of things, there's like some big pieces of a scene, right, that I have to kind of put in place.
You're quite the project manager.
Yes, it's very much project management. And it's interesting because it's obviously like work, but I think it's that control element. Even the control
of course.
Of putting that together is extremely sort of
satisfying.
Pleasing for me, yes.
Totally. Especially, oh my God, getting people together.
Yes.
It's such a struggle, but it's so satisfying when it works. Yes. It's so satisfying when it works.
And I've done events with 80 people. Do you know what I mean? And so it's a massive high to be able to bring together 80 people and to have it really work. And obviously smaller scenes as well. But
so talk to us about the emotional nutrition that you get from doing this. Like what kind of talk to me about that.
So I will tell people I don't drink at all. I don't do any drugs. I'm not on any medications. I don't even drink caffeine, honestly. I mean, I drink tea, so that is caffeine, but I don't even drink coffee. It's like a natural high. It's like a natural energy, right? And this is kind of my one vice, right? So if you think about kind of my life, right? I'm like raising the kids, I work, like I'm just kind of living the regular lifestyle. And kink for me is the outlet. It is the thing that orders my brain, right?
Yes.
My daughter who did the research said I don't have OCD, she said I have OCPD, which is because of personality disorders. It's a bit different. but she diagnosed me. And so that requires like some kind of control, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the thing that feeds me, I think. And so if I don't like kink for a while, if I'm sort of on a vanilla break because we're on a holiday or whatever it is, it builds up. Like I need it to
Oh,
happen.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then a couple of times a year, like I said, I do the very, very big events. And afterwards, I'm very exhausted, but also just spent in an amazingly good way. And then I build up the energy to kind of do the next one 6 months later. And so, little scene, little dopamine, big scene, big dopamine. And a lot of it said is just kind of the outlet for like life is a lot of times very uncontrollable. Although I make a fair shot of controlling most of it. But this is like where in the microcosm you can have this control where you choose the partners. And by the way, what I described for one person, where they give me their kind of list, right? Their interests, their limits, their purse. Imagine doing that for 3 or 4 people in a scene. And then you're doing this kind of mental calculus or kind of puzzle, I call it puzzle pieces, right? You're putting these puzzle pieces together where I'm going to combine these 4 people. And I know that person A wants this experience and person B wants kind of this experience. How can I put those together? So, one person wants to, I don't know, be spit roasted. Another person is like, wants to top for the first time, whatever it is, right? And that I think is so gratifying to be able to kind of make it flow through and have everybody in the scene have that moment where they're really experiencing their kind of top fantasy, that thing that's going to be super memorable for them forever.
I connect with that so much because in doing this, I connect people. I connect people all over the world, and even here, we have parties bringing people together. That high of doing that, and it does change their life. That moment. Oh my God, I'm impressed.
Yeah, she's really. I've read the articles that she wrote.
Impressed.
Yeah, no, she's very well spoken. I love the way, Sea Aphrodite. I love the way you are so authentic and perfectly yourself in your expression of all this. I've read your articles that you wrote for Lifestylers magazine. I listened to the podcast that you did. I took a deep dive because it's inspiring. You're very inspiring to just listen to and learn. Learn about. And in that vein, let's talk about the articles that you've written for Lifestylers magazine. So you share your thoughts, your journey, your passions, your philosophies. Your articles describe your journey growing up from a Soviet era childhood through wild experimentation. You took a kink hiatus during motherhood and career peaks, so that you're in your and now you're in your peak dominance phase as far as we've come now. You've written about being a natural leader, an investigator since childhood, and now you're a commanding, graceful lifestyle domina, a facilitator of fantasy, and your passion is connecting people who share the same passions. So what I want to know is, how has that full arc, especially the break and post mommy makeover rebirth, shaped your approach to power exchange today?
Yeah. So there's one thing that I just wanted to correct. I think you said like an instigator is the word that I had put into one of the articles, which has, I think, a negative connotation, and it should, right? So I think that there's a lot of things that I think people who are born naturally dominant, I have spoken to other doms who have very similar childhood experiences, right? Where you are, in effect, flexing this muscle, this ability to control other people. And you're not always doing it for their good. And you're not always leaving anything good behind. Do you know what I mean? I think as a kid, sometimes you are hurting. And so it's something that you have to learn to control. And I also remember now, like looking back, there were parents who wanted to keep their kids away from me. And I think it's because as adults, they recognized what I was in a way, right? In a way that I couldn't articulate or know what I was, right? So it's like someone who's a leader and an instigator and can sort of convince your kid, because maybe your kid is more impressionable, more of a follower, to do things that maybe they should be doing. And it wasn't always sexual. And at some point it became sexual, but it was just kind of, being out late and like not coming back, by curfew or this kind of stuff, right? And so on the outside, I was I looked just right. I was always kind of like the top kid in the class. I ended up graduating as valedictorian. But I think that there are parents who could sniff it out, right? There is like, you have a child that has like a set of power of control or influence, right, over other people. So the arc of that, I think, is really maturing and learning how to control this. I also professionally work in a field where I guess my ability to influence and to convince, right, is important. I'm sort of on the kind of client and sales side of things, building
Sure.
relationships, and so that manifests there too. I would say the only people that I have a lot of trouble controlling are my own children, because they are what I am, but even more so. Especially my daughter.
Right.
She's going to be something when she's an adult. But I think that the taking a break, so it was very different. It was these kind of pieces. Mr. C and I were kind of living together, going to college. We didn't have I didn't have the career yet. We didn't have the kids. Weren't as risk averse. We were more public. We were going out to events and parties and sort of being kind of more active in the community in a visible way.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, I've curtailed that, right? Just because as my kind of career grew and my kind of the motherhood element, I've become, like I said, much more private, much more risk averse. Then you sort of start to curate your own. And I actually had a conversation with a playmate recently who had come for the first time to a party that had 60 people in it. And he said he was blown away by how each person was just a great vibe. Like each person was a really lovely person. And I said, yeah, because I've hand selected every single one.
Right? Yeah.
Beautiful.
I didn't walk into like some dungeon or some whatever and just who knows who shows up. Every single person was kind of, came because they have a connection with me. I played with them and I wanted them in that room. So very different sort of control that you have. And again, it's about kind of keeping my identity private as well. And then the other piece, so it's, I think what it looked like before and what it looks like now are very different. And then the thing in the middle is interesting. I'll talk to kind of women about this in a vanilla context too, is that a lot of us in our sort of 30s do fall into the kind of donut hole a little bit, right? You're, as a young woman in your 20s, you're usually very ambitious from a career perspective, maybe from a kink perspective, whatever it is. But then a moment comes where there are just the trade-offs, right? Where you really, let's say it's career and motherhood, and you just kind of, you break a little bit, right? Because you can't do everything.
Yes.
And I think what's really important to remind women is that life is much longer than you feel it is at 29 or whatever, right?
Yes.
There will be other seasons. My kids are now in their teens. Like in a minute, they're going to be gone in college.
Yes.
And I've got long runway. And so that's, I think, the kind of letting people know, and I do this with partners now, is it's okay to step back. It's okay to, like, if you need it for your mental health or for this or for that, like, there is no timetable. Things will be waiting for you, maybe in a different fashion than they were before, but it doesn't have to be like, oh no, I'm going to lose something. It's just, you will refashion it later on.
You're so right. There's no standardized timetable by which life operates. We are all on our own journey.
A lot of women, I think, in their 40s are finding a renaissance, because we are seeing that in our partners as well, Mr. C and I, in terms of women who are, maybe they've been through a divorce, maybe, like I said, their kids a little bit older, they're wiser to kind of what they want, what they need. They've made a couple of mistakes along the way, as we all have, and they're having that kind of sexual peak again. And I'm having again this FemDom peak. I think the 40s are really an amazing decade for women, maybe 50s, right, and beyond as well.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I think this has been kind of, it's powerful education in the sense that, you can pull back when you need to, and then you can come back. I think I certainly come back better because I'm more controlled. I'm more mindful of how I'm impacting others, and more less selfish, I guess. And I think more about, again, that kind of, how do I ensure that I leave somebody better than I found them? Because I think when you're a kid, again, you're flexing those muscles. You don't think that way at all, unfortunately. And then you probably leave some scorched earth behind, right?
Yeah. Speaking of other people, there are a lot of conceptions about this whole lifestyle. There's also the confusion of lifestyle versus professional domination. So what misconceptions do people still have about lifestyle, FemDom, versus professional domination? And how do you correct them in your practice?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I try to convey, right, about sort of lifestyle femdom is that, if you're doing something like it's you have to be getting something out of it. Or I guess if you're speaking to submissive, they have to understand that Dom has to be getting something out of it. So it's very not easy, but I think it's more clear the transaction with a professional, a sex worker, right, professional a person, is that they're going to deliver to you your fantasy to you in
Yes.
exchange for compensation. But a lifestyle femdom, she can't kink dispense to you if there isn't something kind of equivalent going in her direction. So
Yes.
what I
Mhm.
described before may sound like kink dispensing because I've asked somebody like, what are your interests? What are your limits? What are your firsts? And I'm trying to cater, but I've also described what I get out of it, right? That sort of ability to control, right? And the kind of the satisfaction of it sort of happening the way that I want it to, right? And so it has
Sure.
to be symbiotic. And so that's I think the kind of biggest thing that you have a lot of folks who approach me and other DOMs who aren't really submissives. They're bottoms, right? They're just trying
Mhm.
to, like I said, get a service in a way, but they're not
Yeah.
really focused on the other person or what the other person sort of needs or desires. And I think, I mean, not that we should disrespect the kind of professional dom, but maybe for her, right, it sort of makes sense if something is compensated. For those of us who are uncompensated by my money, it's got to be something else, right? It's got to be the emotional piece or kind of obviously physical pleasure, whatever it is. So that I think is
Yeah.
the biggest thing to understand is that a dominant partner is just like any other partner, right? They need whatever it is that people get out of
Yeah.
sexuality.
I call it emotional equity.
Absolutely,
It's emotional equity for sure. There's
yeah,
definitely a transaction, and it's a transaction in emotional equity for me, at least. That's what I find.
yeah. And then the other
So,
misconception, I think you guys have this, kind of in the prep note as well, is around kind of, it, you know, like everybody looks at like a dominatrix. I hate that word, by the way.
yes.
Dominatrix,
Yeah.
in leather and studded with metal, and she's got the high boots and she's cracking a whip, and it's like a caricature. It's like some kind of like avatar, right?
Hmm.
But the reality is that DOMs are just regular people. So I will show
Mm.
up to a scene, wearing like my work clothes, right? I look like I look like a suburban soccer mom, or I look like a woman in
Hmm.
her 40s who works in finance or whatever it is. And, we're bringing that more internal, authentic piece. And it's
Hmm.
not necessarily a costume that you're putting on. So not expecting that, I think, is probably another kind of misconception. And unfortunately, a lot of femdom pornography and content like feeds into that caricature, that stereotype. And so then it's sort of the obligation, I think, of those of us who are actually living it to break some of that down so people understand that it isn't, again, a caricature, an archetype.
I
It's
couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
just people.
Yeah.
Speaking of understanding, you
Mm.
wrote some articles. Linus showed me them. She's been all over. She couldn't speak more highly of you, and I was very impressed.
I fell in love, Sea Aphrodite. I fell
Yeah.
in love.
Thank you.
So here are the articles, and I think we just discussed defining a dom.
Yeah.
That's sort of geared toward the topic that we just
Hmm.
discussed. But Lifestylers Magazine, this is a great resource, just for some of the philosophies and the really cool information that you have to share. Um, yeah, it's not as if you're reinventing the wheel, but the way your method of delivery is it's great. I mean, it's just a matter of getting the message across, and I think you do it. Um, Now, I want to move on to some of the things that you really emphasize, and
Mm.
you you repeatedly emphasize responsibility, doing no harm, trust building, leaving partners better off. Have you seen the community's understanding of safety and consent evolve since your earlier articles, especially surrounding taboo play like forced buy or race play? Have you seen an evolution there?
This is one of those questions where I wanted to be careful because it's hard for me to speak on behalf of a community in which I haven't plugged myself in. I mean, I have a lot of
Mhm.
playmates who do go to a lot of events in the city, right? More kind of, I call them more public, but they're not public. They're just sort of events, right? Kink events. And the reality is Mr. C and I don't really do a lot of that. So I really, what I'm participating in is what I create myself, right? So it's either a couple of people coming to my house, or maybe sometimes one person coming and playing, anything from that to sort of parties, we have dinner parties where it's sort of 25 or 30 of us, and then maybe the bigger parties that are 60 to 80, depending on whether or not we're using the backyard space. So I think, my version of this is now it's informed by my own philosophy. It's the way that I create the event, because every person has come curated into the group through me and through play with me. I hope the people that I attract, and I know the people that I retain, have the same approach. And one of the kind of biggest sort of maybe compliments that I can pay to, let's say, a fellow Dom, whether it's a woman or a man, is like, you're just like me. You have the same approach as me, which is, you're trying to care for a person. You're not trying to exploit them. You're not trying to use them. You may enjoy using them, right? But at the end of the day, you're caring.
Sure. You're caring about them, yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to speak on behalf of the community, but it is, I think I have attracted and then retained for periods of years very like-minded playmates. A lot of the Doms are kind of more Mr. C's and my age. And then a lot of the kind of, the submissives range in a lot of age, as well, right? Especially women are kind of a whole range, 20s, 30s, 40s, kind of our age. But then I do bring in a lot of the kind of young, right? Because I'm personally just very into, as you said, the twinks, the femboys, the kind of younger participants. Yeah. And so there, I think it's the kind of most important thing, because you're introducing somebody to kink, you're plugging them into a community, you're showing them basically for the first time, like what their expectations should be, right? Which is that they should be respected, they should not be exploited, they should be valued. They should be valued. If they're putting themselves like in your care and your trust, right?
You're writing a romance novel.
I want to set a standard for them that is going to persist forever, right? And people are not going to stay with me forever, because they're going to mature and they're going to, maybe they meet a primary partner, because I can't be that. Or maybe they move somewhere else for a job or for school, like people will evolve out of their relationship with me over time. But what I want to do is I want to put that grounding in place for them. And a lot of people who reach out to me who are quite young and inexperienced are just having a lot of trouble getting a foot through the door, because nobody will give them that first chance, right? Nobody wants to take a risk on them. And I get it, because my attrition rate for kind of new people that I'm trying to give a chance to is like, I don't know, 19 out of 20, basically, and disappear on, because they're just not ready. So it's a bit of a numbers game, but the ones who do commit themselves and kind of take the leap, I like to think that I'm giving them a really good foundation. And you said kind of, leaving. So it's the campsite rule, right? You leave the campsite cleaner than you found it. Or it's the kind of savage love, kind of GGG, right? You're good giving in game, and you're a good partner. And like I said, somebody walks away from an experience with you, like without having been harmed, and hopefully, like I said, kind of with good memories and stronger, so they can go on and have kind of other experiences. And that's what I have definitely seen over the years, certainly with kind of the younger partners as they kind of move into the next phase of their kink, let's say.
Sure.
I mean, it's incredibly impressive, and I could only put myself in the twink's eyes or in the twink's position, and being so impressed. So, like, you have an impressive Ivy League education, a successful career in finance. You're also one of the most prominent lifestyle femdoms in New York City in the scene. You have this massive anonymous following. What else? You're raising kids. That's no small feat, right? So I mean, it's magnificently impressive. Like I said before, how do you balance all of this?
Yeah, it's a question. So one thing I would say is I think part of that kind of that you role model, I think that this is possible, like to younger kinksters and to kinksters your age, right? To say like that this can be a reality for people. You can kind of create your life. I mean, obviously everybody has different circumstances, but you can try to create your life in the kind of manner in which you want. You choose your own community. I know we talked about this in the prep, right? Kind of gravitating towards like-minded people, your family of choice, right? Finding your people. I think the answer for me in terms of balance comes back to Mr. C in a big way, because we have that partnership at home. So it's allowed me to have a very strong career and effectively have a stay-at-home partner who's taking kind of the lion's share, Lioness, the lion's share.
Thank you for the nod. Yes.
The domestic labor, right? So that's really important. The other part is I paid my dues, man. I worked my initial days were in management consulting and investment banking. And investment banking before the global financial crisis, when it was like really investment banking. In other words, you would work 100 hours a week, 110 hours a week. If you want to do the math on that,
oh, it's brutal.
Every day,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I used to place people. I used to recruit for Wall Street.
Yeah,
it's a
yeah. So I did that. I mean, I had those junior years, and I built a career. Now, 25 years in, I moved from the sell side to the buy side. People are familiar, obviously, to investing, and so I have a team. I have incredible flexibility to sort of make my hours and my location in terms of my work. I have the ability to turn things down. I'm sort of a speaker in the industry, right? A well-known speaker. People will offer me opportunities, to sort of be out there talking about the style of investing that I focus on. But again, if you're trying to sort of show, especially younger folks, like a version of adulthood that is aspirational, right? To say like, how do you put your head down, you work really hard, you get the education, you get the career. You pay your dues, you put it in, you choose a good partner who's going to be supportive of you. Like none of these are random things, right? These are very conscious choices. And of course, things can get derailed. I mean, like life throws all sorts of curveballs at us. And you have to kind of surf, right? But that's I think the answer, right? Is that it's like, you have to see all the years that it took to get to this place where I've got sort of the career part and the home part, and then the ability to have flexibility on kink as well.
Now, how do you use? I mean, it is intimidating, right? Do they fall in love with you like instantly?
Boys,
yeah.
So I mean, this is something. I mean, it's a funny question, but it's kind of a sad answer in a way, because yeah, I mean, I think you can, not unfortunately, I think you can end up with a more emotional connection, which ultimately is
all the pieces are there.
Yeah, I'm not going to leave Mr. C, and I'm obviously like not an appropriate sort of like real partner, for a 22-year-old kid, right?
Sure.
22-year-old boy. So people can develop, and I think that like I said, relationships have an arc, and sometimes the kind of natural end point of relationship is somebody recognizing that their feelings are strong, and that it's just not going to serve, like it's not a healthy thing. So you go through some of the initial excitement, and you're exploring your fantasies, and you're kicking a lot of things off the sort of your list, and you're getting, I guess, stronger, right, in your own interests, and your confidence is growing, and that it can happen that there's basically a connection that sort of becomes a little bit too deep or too sort of involved. And then that's that's a good sign, right? That's probably time to kind of keep moving, right? And it is emotional. Like, I mean, I definitely, like, I'm very human.
Yeah, sure, you feel that.
Those connections. That. Yeah, I mean, but I'm also thinking about what's right for the person. So even
correct,
of course.
And I actually say that from the very beginning. I say we check in a lot. We check in. Let's say if it's kind of a more defined relationship, we're checking in every couple of months, right, about kind of how things are going, and it's kind of course, it would pain me to lose you, but I want the right thing for you. So is this the right thing that is serving your ability to grow and develop? And if it no longer is, then I'll take the hit, because I'm, like I said, I've got sort of my life sort of set together. I'm not going anywhere. I'll take the emotional hit. It shouldn't be you taking the hit. So that's happened certainly more than once. And I'm sure it'll happen again, because again, I'm human. So as much as I say to myself, I probably shouldn't allow these things to create connection this way, the reality is that it'll naturally happen.
So, you are the twink whisperer.
You are the twink whisperer. Yeah. So you've been, I've lovingly coined that term for you. I was researching it. And I said, oh my God, she's like the twink whisperer. What draws you to, certain types of submissive men, and what do you enjoy most about guiding them through their new experiences, like forced by, pegging, or body worship? What is that about?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we talked about kind of getting something out of it because you're a lifestyle person. And so what is it that you're sort of taking from it? I mean, for me, it's just personal attraction, right? I'm much more inclined to be just physically attracted and wanting to touch someone who looks a certain way, right? So I can appreciate many types of people, age and body type and all this sort of stuff, but the ones that I end up sort of really falling for, right, are the ones who are going to look a certain way. It's just my personal attraction. A lot of my sexuality doesn't come from sort of people touching me or doing things to me, although I do love oral, I love body worship. But a lot of my sexuality ultimately comes from sort of touching other people, right? Or sort of manipulating their bodies, doing something to them, getting a reaction, right? Because I'm creating that memory. And so, like I said, we keep talking about twinks or femboys or whatever it is. It's just my personal attraction, right? But at the end of the day, I think, whether it's a submissive who sort of looks that way, or whether it's somebody a little bit older, more masculine, whether it's a woman, obviously we play with a lot of women as well.
Sure.
It's ultimately like the idea of the first, or the idea of sort of, fantasy fulfillment. I mean, this is a real kink. I've connected with other doms who have the same. It's like our top kink is fantasy facilitation. So how do you unpack that?
Oh,
like you're trying to facilitate fantasy.
Oh, actually, yeah, it's great. I
had a great conversation with a kink friend who's a dom, and we talked about how do you keep things exciting for yourself, that kind of dopamine hit after 20, 25 years in the scene. And
keeps things in motion.
You either build deeper connection, which we just talked about, can be unfortunately quite emotional, or you are basically vicariously living through someone else. So it's dopamine by proxy. So if I'm playing with someone and it's their first time doing something really exciting, that they've been harboring this fantasy for a while, and they're experiencing that moment, I'm getting the same hit, exactly. So that, I think, is a big thing. And then the kind of power of memory, right, of being that sort of, and I, by the way, did this very early on. I think in one of the articles I wrote about it, Mr. C and I in high school were taking virginities.
Yes.
Which sounds a lot worse than it is.
Swiping the V card. Yeah.
Swiping the V card. And I was like, I collected a number of virginities among my male friends. And it does tickle me to this day that, like,
they'll remember you forever.
45-year-old men run around remembering me forever. Well, I mean, take that and think about first pegging. First time you experience.
They will remember you forever. Even like really good fucks, even like really good lays and stuff like that, and really good relationships. Still, so on their deathbed, they'll remember you forever.
Yes. And that is a power, right? So that's an ownership. That's a power that is real. And
it's like this emotional sexual tattoo almost.
Yeah. Right? And I do think that I balance that as like, am I being too selfish because I'm trying to take that thing, right? That sort of power grab, is that serving the person? And
so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You emphasize the turning shame and vulnerability into self-acceptance for some,
right?
Especially men, right? And I mean, it's typical, but like, the devil's in the details.
Sure.
What's the most powerful like light bulb moment that you've witnessed when facilitating this newbie's first fantasy? And, and how did like this approach make it? The mommy dom approach make it possible?
Yeah, we haven't even touched on that yet. I think part of this,
that's the light bulb moment where
the femboy thing. Part of it is I am at heart a mommy, especially at the age that I am now. I've always felt a bit more mature than my own peers, but now, obviously, right, like relative to most, or with the other folks in the community, that mommy dynamic, that connection really does, really does speak to me, right? So that kind of nurturing and teaching. The age gap is definitely a part of that. I think there's a couple of, like, to your question, right? I think number one, I think prostate. I love being sort of like the advocate for the male prostate.
The light bulb moment was the prostate. It was like
when you
found
pleasure from their prostate.
Oh,
Right?
God, it's enlightening. It is like a whole other world, right? For everybody.
When you're a little kid and you learn how to masturbate, you discover your penis, right? But then like later on in your life, you discover this other organ and it's yours and it belongs to you and you can like use it for pleasure.
I could be doing this.
So I think like the first pegging, right, where somebody's maybe fearful and you sort of open them up and you show them it can be sort of not painful and that there is pleasure that can be derived from it, and then they can kind of go forth and explore, right, by themselves, with partners. And you say, like, look, it's not going to be perfect the first time, just like the first time you tried masturbating. I'm sure it wasn't perfect when you were a kid. Like, you refine it over time.
I thought I broke myself.
There you go. And then the forced by thing is obviously a misnomer, right? There is no forced anything. It's basically someone who harbors fantasy. They have a desire. They need permission to be able to act it out. They need some place of safety. Yeah. I think I am just like, by existing in the scene, I'm providing like this safe space, right? And then I'm like, because I'm a beautiful woman and I'm watching and I'm enjoying it, I'm sort of cheering them on. It turns me on, like, and it does, by the way. Like,
we're gonna get to the cheering on.
I was watching, guy on guy porn early days, right? Like, it does turn me on, so that's no joke. But so that I think like that moment too, where somebody sort of experiences that. I would say like I've seen like, and this has been again feedback to me like just recently from a conversation with a sub. Who had never done the kind of things that he's doing with me, where he's bottoming, to other men, and the way that he feels when he is desired, right? When he feels the other person become erect because of him, and to like somebody penetrating him and using his body, and it's something that for men, I think generally like is not a part of their sexuality, right? Being desired in that very specific way. And I think that people get addicted to it, right? Like focus, that attention, that desire. And again, not everybody's going to want it, but I think giving people the safe space and the acceptance to say, like, this is okay. You can want to be desired this way. We get it. Like, it makes total sense. It doesn't make you less than, or it doesn't make, it doesn't demean you. It's just a different way of sort of, again, experiencing pleasure and desire. I love that light bulb moment, right? And then you can walk away afterwards is the thing, right? It's like they'll get dressed afterwards and go back to their normal lives, and they're kind of it doesn't. I do the analogy of the roller coaster. You ride the roller coaster; it's super exciting, scary. You get off, you walk away. You're still the same person that you were before. It hasn't changed anything about you, sort of at a cellular level, right? It was just a great experience that you had. If you want to have it again, you go again, and if you don't, you don't. And you're trying to take something and make it less risky, for someone to say, just have the experience. I mean, for women, for example, one of the biggest fantasies women come to me with is a gangbang of whatever scale, 6 guys, 10 guys, whatever it is. And it's that same thing of wanting to be desired, really the focus of desire. But then it's scary because are these people vetted? Am I going to be safe? And so creating a safe space for women to
and
do
you
that,
handle all that. Yeah.
and
The
to
project
feel it.
manager, Sea Aphrodite, handles it. Yeah.
And then you walk away and you're still the same woman that you were before. And there should be like no judgment. You're not anything different than you were. You just got this, you got to feel this experience. And like I said, I'm very like big on that. Sort of people separating like what you do from who you are and not judging yourself. Again, just letting yourself have these, like, have hopefully joyful experiences, right?
So you're a facilitator and you're a project manager, and so many women, so many pro-doms really do this for money, but you are strictly a lifestyle femdom. So tell me about what that means to you and why you deliberately avoid turning kink into a business if you're so good at it and you have such a great way of executing these things. What is what stops you?
There's a couple of things. I do think the introduction of compensation changes things. I mean, even something as stupid as like somebody getting me, I don't know, getting me like a coffee and then like, or giving me something. And then all of a sudden it feels, maybe it's just me feeling it, like that there's like some kind of obligation or just something that comes with accepting something. Like, so I'll travel, for example, for work. And I mean, I hate that way this is going to come across, but given the industry that I work in, right? Like I travel, on a corporate credit card, and we stay at really nice hotels, and I'm out with clients and all this stuff. And people will write to me and say something like, that I'm going to their city. Hey, I'll get you a room and I'll buy you dinner. And like, that's the entree, right? Like they're gonna get to skip the line, and they're gonna get to see me, and they're gonna play with me because they've offered me like, a Motel 6 or whatever it is, and like dinner at Denny's. I mean, I'm being facetious, but it's this, and I have this kind of a visceral reaction where like, no, I have my own hotel, I have my own dinner, I don't need anything from anybody. Let's just come to it as human beings, and it's a choice. Like I only touch who I want to touch, right? And I think the production of any kind of financial transaction to me creates something other than like complete sort of free will or choice. And I could be wrong.
Creates obligation. You're not wrong. It creates obligation.
I don't mean this to be in any way kind of against. Again, I'm very respectful of sex work and so professional, especially folks who have great skills that I, that they've worked on at home for years. So there's that element of it. And then I think the other part, and I thank you for saying that I'm good at this, but I'm also really good at the other thing that I do for a living, right? And so, I mean, this is kind of where I've put, years of education and, decades of effort is into kind of building the career that I have. And they are mutually exclusive, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever it is. At this point in my life, if I were to profit in any way, any kind of money, I would have to report it to a regulator. I would have to report it to a compliance officer. And it's just not, it does not vibe. Like it does not work with my sort of vanilla career. Now I have thought about, I've written about like things that I might want to do when I'm done with my current career, which I do intend to be done with it at some point. My kids will finish college, we'll pay off our house, whatever kind of normal, touch points you have on your financial journey. We're putting a lot of money away for retirement. And so hopefully Mr. C and I will have that kind of like post-retirement. I would like to have a post-retirement career. I think that my post-retirement career may have something to do with kink. Maybe it's education, whatever it is, coaching, maybe it's, therapy, maybe it's something. I don't think that I would do it as like a pro-domination, like actually like money for play. I think maybe it's more like I'm writing, I'm, like I said, providing education, providing therapy.
I could absolutely see you and sit and listen to a class that you're presenting on. Absolutely. I could see that.
Yeah,
but at this point in my life, I need to focus on, like I said, I have the kind of income that I have the lifestyle that I have, that I've built over decades, and I want to sort of see it through, raise my kids, all of those things. And there's no way that I could replicate the income stream, I think, through anything kink related. But at some point I will again be like in a retirement phase, and what I do will be a passion and a love, and not necessarily something that I'm sort of thinking about as a financial thing.
I want to take the next question, but before I go, since we are talking about, financial, the financial industry, investments and everything like that, I talk to people from the kink community around the world. Money is can be an issue for many of them. If you could just break it down, just one piece of advice, just something that think of us as idiots, just not idiots, but just like like talk to, because a lot of us don't know, that we should. The things that we should know, especially in the kink community. What are some? Just give us one gem, please.
I don't think kinksters are any different from anybody else in this
regard.
Yeah,
I know. I was just trying to paint a picture.
Incredibly important not to live beyond your means. I think it's incredibly important to try not to take on too much debt, unless it's debt that is like powerful debt, right? So like a mortgage, right? Can be a powerful debt, right? It's a driver, like where you build equity. I think it's really important to invest early. I mean, I give this advice to everybody, is just to put something aside, just put it into the market. Don't look at it. The younger you are, the more aggressively you should invest it into kind of like riskier things. I don't mean like crypto. I just mean like sort of, it's equities. And then just let the market work for you over a long time, because compounding interest, if you want to look it up, compounding interest, they call it the eighth wonder of the world or something. It's like it really is miraculous what money can do if you sort of leave it alone and you let it grow. So I think those are big things. It's like not to, and it's hard, but not to overspend, put something away, Just be really cautious with debt. But I think like this is the entire, not just in the U.S., but people around the world, but certainly in the U.S. I think you have, whatever the statistics are, right, that X percent of the population would struggle to pay a $400 sort of unexpected like medical bill or something like that. People are living paycheck to paycheck. So I think those sorts of things, those of us who work in the kind of financial community, it's like those basics. And the earlier you can do it, if you're a young person, the better to kind of put yourself into that practice. And you don't have to have a lot of money to do it. It's just sort of thinking like some percentage, right?
Of and I have, trust me, please learn from me. Learn from me, people. Learn from me. I mean, I had a liver transplant. I don't know if you know this. I had a liver transplant, which just killed me financially. Not 100%, but almost killed me financially. If I invested wiser in certain things, things would have been different. Let's talk about pegging. You're known for the love of pegging. Yeah. It's a great segue, right? Great segue, right?
Love it. Yeah.
You're known for the love of pegging, especially the friction of the harness. All right. Oral worship. You make subs suck your cock, but you don't enjoy penetrate play for yourself. All right. This reminds me. I write about it in my book, The Coolest Way to Kill Yourself. The first strap on, I had one of those butterflies on it. It had a clit stimulator, and it was not very expensive, so it wasn't very good. We didn't know what we're doing, we're kids, we're young, 20s. How do you structure scenes? How do you structure scenes that your pleasure and the submission are both deeply fulfilled if you don't really enjoy penetrative play for yourself?
Yeah. So this is like one of these things, right? The statistics are that 70% of women can't orgasm without some sort of clit stim, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the extremes, those of us who really just don't feel anything from penetration. And I know that it's extreme. And obviously when I was growing up, like as a young person, there was multiple conversations with sort of medical professionals, right, about this. And the medical community doesn't care that much in the sense that, like, oh, okay, are you able to orgasm? Yes, I can orgasm every single day. Well, then you're good. Move on, because there's plenty of women, unfortunately, who can't orgasm, right? And that's where you focus the attention, right? Is where somebody really does have kind of real issues. And so the manner of sort of stimulation, right? Again, there's going to be an extreme where women can orgasm entirely from, let's say, anal or vaginal penetration, and on the other extreme, women who absolutely just need the clit stim. So I definitely come in my scenes. I'm a huge fan of sort of teaching boys how to provide good oral to women. If I get a boy who already knows how to do it, or an older partner, obviously I'm very grateful. It's great, And so that's the way people please me, right? Is like I said, I come every time I play. I come, but it is through oral sex, right? Penetration just doesn't feel like anything for me. It doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel good. It just is nothing. It's the absence of nerve endings or something. And so for me, penetration is a bit like giving a blowjob, in the sense that, like, you may do it for a partner, you may like it, doing it for them. It makes them feel good. They have a great reaction to it. It's exciting for them, right? You want to treat them, or you want to tease them, or it's like part of play, but it isn't giving you anything, right? Like when let's say you're sucking cock, you don't have, let's say, sexual stimulation from it directly. So that's the kind of limit, right? In terms of pegging, I think it's something else. There is an element, but there's easier ways to have your clit stimulated than to peg. So pegging for me is, I think a power thing. I think it's like what men feel when they penetrate. This is women taking that and saying, I want to penetrate,
Yes.
And I want to be the kind of active partner at the top, right?
It's empowering. Yeah.
It is very empowering. So I love it. And I love, by the way, the first people that I used to strap on 20 plus years ago were women. And I still love having sex with women that way.
And we're going to get into that. We're going to have some girl talk in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, but I also think, that kind of concept of basically kind of giving people permission to enjoy their prostate, or to feel like the whole that is being used and desired, that sort of changing, right, sort of somebody's perception, right? That, like, don't worry about your dick, right? Like, you can enjoy, like, and a lot of times for submissives, there's a lot of stress around maintaining an erection, or being nervous in a scene, right? Maintaining an erection, or coming too quickly. And I'm always like, just relax, forget about it. We just put a cage on it. Don't worry. Like, we're going to explore other types of pleasure next. And we'll explore other types of pleasure. And then ultimately, of course, I want people to orgasm, whether it's a prostate orgasm or kind of regular orgasm. But yeah, I think pegging for me is definitely like 9/10, psychological and very power driven. And then like 1/10, as I said, so there's these easier ways to get clits in. Usually it's like sitting on the boy's face or the girl's face, or kind of just having them eat me out. I mean, that's the kind of the easy way. And I'm actually so pretty easy to get off. So there's no trouble there. But yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
And that's also accepting your biology. I think I'm very vocal about this fact. I'm very vocal about the fact that penetration doesn't do anything for me, and I don't fake it, because I want other people to accept their biology too. There are some people who can't come from just prostate stimulation, and they have to accept that that's fine. And there's some women who do not squirt, and that's also okay.
That's okay too.
We cannot put it on people that if you don't do this kind of thing, or if you can't achieve this kind of thing, that there's something wrong with you, because there isn't, right? So I will tend to talk about kind of my own like preferences or limitations or whatever, because I want everybody else to sort of be able to be comfortable with theirs. And so, yeah, if you're not very endowed, or if you don't last very long, right, in the bedroom, like, okay, you can develop other skills, right? You can be really good at giving oral, or you can, whatever it is, right? Like, everybody can find their place, and you don't have to sort of say this is what it has to be like, because we're each very different, and we can
That's
be
the beauty.
in our way. Exactly.
That's the beauty of kink. Like, seriously, the infinite possibilities. Like, even when I was sick, I knew that I was like, okay, if I make out of this, I'm gonna grow old. I'm not gonna be able to fuck. Like, one day I'm not gonna grow old. And so, but I'm still gonna mind. I still have an imagination. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of kink, So if I, keep kink alive. Thank you for this.
So
your
true.
On your
that was beautiful.
Yes,
right,
it was.
So
oh my God, it was great. There's so
beautiful.
many quotes. There's so many quotes.
So I want to have a little girl talk. So Nick, I'm going to wave bye-bye. I'm taking you out for a minute. Bye, Nick. All right. So just us girls. You mentioned that you like playing with women. It is a very different experience. I'm somebody who also likes to enjoy playing with women as well. How does dominating women differ from dominating men for you? And what makes a woman especially rewarding in her submission? I want to hear that from your perspective.
Women are incredibly committed. I mean, I think you have some of the same issues in the beginning where people kind of flake, right? There's attrition. Not everybody who comes to you is going to ultimately follow through. But I think once somebody has sort of made that leap, they're just very committed, right? They create community, they create friendship, they really put themselves into it. They don't separate. I think a lot of times men will sort of have this as like a little piece of their life. It's secret, and they'll have it very separate from their own life. And I think women really kind of like oftentimes want to be all in, even if they're anonymous in it, even if they're not like looking to be exposed, obviously, in their regular lives, they're still kind of letting the emotion in and the friendship, and they're creating that community. So we think about the kind of kinky fam, our kinky fam. I mean, there's a lot of women in that fam, right? Because they, like I said, they commit, which is amazing, right? Because then you're building these deeper relationships, which is that the two sides of the dopamine hit, right? How do you have more dopamine, either by proxy or by kind of like a depth of relationship? Women also, I think, dig very deep, especially I know Mr. C loves obviously co-topping with me. He's a great Dom. But on things like impact play, for example, women are just a lot of fun to play with. Much more pain tolerant than men. Can take a lot, like, and really need it too, right? For kind of like a sort of a stress release, right?
Catharsis,
catharsis. And so that's really like it's a very symbiotic. And as a Dom, you really sort of enjoy what you're doing for that person and their kind of reaction and their joy. And I think I'm probably gentler on women. Sometimes to the point where they ask me not to be, right? Because I'm coddling a little bit, not on the impact side, but just kind of things like humiliation or kind of some of the things that I'm more naturally inclined to with men. I'll give women like some leeway, and sometimes women will say, "Hey, like, be tougher on me," and then of course I am, but that's probably my natural inclination, is just to treat them more gently because I love them. but yeah, I think, and this is one place where Mr. C and I can do more together, which I really enjoy, because Mr. C is straight. He's probably listening now. He's stubbornly straight. So, given how many people I've sort of walked down the path
Stubbornly straight.
to bisexual play, Mr. C is the one that I can't get. He's so stubbornly straight, and so he's wonderful, but like that's kind of his thing. And so when it comes to me playing with biflex boys, he can come by and take a picture for us, or kind of be helpful in some way, but ultimately it's just not his thing. But when we have female submissives, that's a place where I can watch him. He does incredible sensory play and like I said, impact play, and he's got this kind of great daddy dom vibe. Even like he is a daddy, right? And he obviously raising our kids, and so he has that sort of natural vibe. But he's also very strong. So for the impact side, he's very good. And so that's something that he and I have always. I mean, we enjoyed, like I said, from when I was maybe 18 years old, we were having threesomes with women, maybe more vanilla at that point, and sort of less, although I think we were co-topping and sort of co-doming even then without having a word for it. So that's a nice, like I said, it's kind of the building of community, the kind of building of friendships, a deeper, like that kind of deeper cathartic, connection. And then the fact that I, can have him, like something that he and I can do together more as a couple. I think one of your questions is kind of how do you balance a relationship where both people are dominant? You have to find these places of crossover, basically.
Yes. So let me ask you this. There's some earlier content in your FetLife profile, which you are Sea Aphrodite on FetLife for anybody who wants to know. The links are in the show notes below. Your earlier content depicts you switching and sort of, playing with him in that capacity, which I think is beautiful. Do you guys still do that, or is that an element?
No, I mean, increasingly, no. I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, there were a couple of, but it's very sort of performative in a way, right? The kind of switching, and it's what I just said about kind of bottoming. If it's someone you love, you want them to feel good.
Sure.
Then the kind of act of like the intercourse or the act of sort of giving a blowjob, it's not bottom or top. It's not submission or domination. It's just like showing love, right? And so.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have 2 kids together. We've been together for decades. So this is one place where me having intercourse, there isn't something in my head where I'm like, oh, this is someone trying to top me or dominate me, or should I sort of bottom?
Sure.
It's just me saying I love this person. I want them to feel good, right? I think we did a couple of like photo shoots or whatever where it was like I think he got me something and I was kind of dressed up, but like even then it's like I said, it's very performative. And he has tried. I will say, bless him. He said, like,
bless his heart.
Let me show you what people enjoy in terms of sensory play or this or that. And it just doesn't take, because, and I'm kind of, let's just take all the restraints off. Let's just, whatever, you can just go down on me. Like, it's just more vanilla, right? And that's fine between us.
Yeah.
And I try to like liken it to like, what if I said to you, hey, like, let me explore your prostate? Like, and we did, by the way, try that at some point early on in our relationship, and it wasn't for him. So I think we've just kind of learned over time that we have to keep it quite vanilla, quite neutral, so that neither one of us is sort of feeling, put upon. And that at the end of the day, it's the kind of the symbiosis is just wanting the other person to feel good. So is he submitting to me when he goes down on me? Is it the submissive act? Of course not. I'm his wife.
No, you love each other.
Yeah, he wants to make me feel good. And if I'm doing something for him or with him, it's because I love him and want him to feel good too. So yeah, I think we try to just sort of maybe take the BDSM out a little bit, because it isn't like that's not a natural sort of place for us when we're together, unless we have other people that we are like playing that out with.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you for divulging me or indulging me. I'm bringing Nick back. Come back, Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hello. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Girl talk is over. Okay. So Nick.
Oh, yes. Ownership.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm sorry. I bounced. There we are.
Okay. You're talking about loving the ownership kink. Loving the ownership kink. Being connected to people's first. Because, you own those memories.
Yeah.
Forever. Yeah. So can you share a powerful example of how that eternal connection played out in your dynamic? with the submissive?
Yeah. I mean, I can give you like even a vanilla one. There was a
No, let's go a kinky one.
Yeah, no, I know, but it crosses over. So, or it's
Okay.
like it's reflective of the same thing. I had a friend that I went to high school with, and at some point I gave him a really really good blowjob, and we are still friends, like friends on Facebook. I like see his pictures, his kids, whatever it is, and he's a 44-year-old man. He's like, there's literally never been like the blowjob that I compare all my blowjobs to for the rest of my life is that blowjob, right?
Wow.
That feels really good.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow.
So that's a vanilla one, obviously. So I think it's really the same thing. It's the kind of like first pegging experience or this or that. It's like this kind of like I will say it sometimes like I'll have a boy who's like 21. Here I am, I'm 44, and we've just done something that he's like really into, and I'll sort of say something like in the aftercare, we're cuddling, and I'll say like, I'm going to be long dead one day. You're going to be like 92 years old in a nursing home somewhere, and you're still going to remember like this, right? And it's hot. It's just it's a hot thing, right? To sort of like live in somebody's like rent free. Somebody said live rent free in somebody's head forever. I will say just to make sure that I'm like making a sensible sort of point about this too. I talk about the word domina as kind of which I like a lot over mistress, but the idea of a domina or dominus is a landowner, right? Kind of an owner of an estate coming along with usually people who are working the estate. I mean, let's be honest, back in the day it would have been kind of like slavery, in effect, like serfs were kind of attached to the land. And how you own those people. I mean, you can be really short-sighted and misuse them, overuse them, overwork them, underfeed them, right? Effectively. And then, the estate doesn't prosper. Or you can be long-sighted, right? And you can treat them well and make sure they're well fed and well taken care of and still working hard. And the estate grows and prospers. And if you think about the estate that is the sort of Sea Aphrodite estate, right? Mr. C is part of that. It's these great events that we curate. It's this kind of great community that we build. It's all the connections between people who have found each other through this sort of connectivity. People from different cities and countries, even who have crossed over, who have come to some of the events and gotten to know each other, and people who have built relationships as a result of sort of meeting at some of our events. I mean, like I said, with some of our sort of longer term playmates, we're going back years and years. That's, I think of that as the estate, right? And so I think about adding new people to that estate or kind of, again, maintaining the relationships with the people who have been around for a long time, including them in things, X number of times a year. So it's like you're feeding them, right? You're saying like part of the association means that you get to be part of these things. And because you're playing in certain scenes with me that I really find pleasurable, then in exchange, you get invited to maybe some of the bigger parties, some of these special occasions. So, there's always this kind of, to me, like the ownership of that kind of bigger group, right? And kind of the kind of people who are coming in and out or usually staying around as part of it. And thinking about, again, how you sort of not just benefit yourself, because obviously a lot of fun, and you see that I get a lot out of it, both physically, but especially psychologically, but how are you benefiting those people too, through the connections, the experiences that you create for them? That hopefully are positive over time, right? So that's my sense of ownership, is this kind of like long-term thinking, and trying to make sure that you're growing a healthy estate. Basically.
They'll remember you forever, and it will affect every decision they make. The ripple effect that will have on their life for the rest of their life. I mean, it's wild. It's really
big responsibility, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
a big responsibility.
Big responsibility. And that's the other thing, like I said, when I say like other DOMs who I really sort of gravitate to, I say somebody who feels that they're caring for people and taking responsibility, right?
Are there some people that like, are there some people that you had to turn away?
Yeah.
And for, that you really, you almost didn't want to, but like, what was that one thing that like, it was the one thing that
yeah, there's a lot of folks where the energy doesn't connect right, and I think it's just that it's like somebody coming with a selfish vibe. What's in this for me, rather than like what can I bring to this? A lot of our events are potluck It's like you bring you bring a meal, right, to the potluck, but it's like
Right.
you bring your skills, right? You bring your kind of, again, that positive energy, whatever it is that you're good
Skills,
at,
man.
right? And so it's like, how can I be of benefit to this estate, this community, right? These events that are being hosted. Not like I'm trying to come in there and just like screw as many people as I can find. And we've had this. We've had people who have, like, basically they come into it and it's just, their selfishness takes over and it's all about them, and they're thinking they're short-term greedy. I've got these 3 hours and I'm just going to
Yeah.
serve myself.
Yeah.
And that's it. You don't come back. Because, those 3 hours are not just like, here's these 3 hours I serve myself. It's these 3 hours where I can make an impression, affect other people, help other people. We had one event recently, which was it was a free use concept, a free use horse stables. So we had all these people who were horses, free use horses
Yeah.
in
Wow.
stalls. And then you're a rider, you come and use the horse. And each horse had a little sign next to it that said, like, yes or no. This is what I want, what I don't want. And so you, as the rider, your responsibility was to come and read the sign and say, this person has articulated these fantasies and these limits. And my job as a writer is to help provide this fantasy for this person who has put themselves, obviously very vulnerable, into this position of kind of being a horse in a stall and people coming to visit them. And so, you can take that, again, in multiple ways. You can run around and be like this sort of selfish writer, or you can be someone who's walking around, like, this is my kind of concept of trying to facilitate fantasies for others. And then when it's your turn in the stall, because almost everybody, by the way, came to this event and took a turn in the stall, and then they turned around and were writers for others, then it's your turn and they do the same thing for you. Like, that's the way it's supposed to look. So I absolutely will turn a lot of people away on the basis that they're obviously just coming to sort of exploit or use. And there's plenty. Like, 100 straight men a day will come and write to me and say, I want to come to your parties, effectively just to fuck your friends. And I'm kind of like, no, we have no need for you.
No, if it's
right?
not symbiotic, not taking an active role in creating the environment. Yeah, I agree.
And then the other reason that I turn most people away, and this is in every age group, but is like, it's just very evident the person isn't ready and it's not going to be mentally healthy for them. And this is where, again, that responsibility comes. Just because somebody articulated a fantasy doesn't mean that they're actually going to be comfortable with it, that it's going to, again, sort of do them good. And I think as the kind of, the sober adult in the room, right? Because maybe your judgment is not as clouded by sort of being aroused, right? Because a lot of people come to me, like, write to me initially in a state of arousal. It is, I think, your responsibility to say, kind of, is this really going to be, is living out, because, some things are meant to stay fantasy. So is living out this fantasy really going to be good for the person? And look, maybe somebody else will turn around and give them that experience and sort of be less, maybe disciplined about it, or sort of less responsible with it. But I can only control what I do, right? And so if I smell, and I have obviously pattern recognition now because I hear from hundreds and hundreds of people, so if my pattern recognition is sort of ringing to me, red sort of flag alarm bells, like that this is going to be a bad, ultimately sort of, fit for the person psychologically or whatever, I'm not going to take it on. And this is why when people say, oh, like, and I know this is one of your questions, like, what about playing with somebody who's 18 or 19? Is it sort of predatory? Is it this? I want to be very clear, like, they're very rare, like 18, 19, right? The vast majority, I wouldn't go anywhere near, but I also wouldn't go anywhere near most, like 28, 38, you're basically
it depends on the person.
You're vetting for the individual being. And by the way, there are very mature 19 and very, very immature 39s. And that's where you sort of make that choice, right? To say, I think this person knows themselves, understands themselves, and I think can benefit from having a safe, curated, cared for experience where they get to try some prostate play and some bondage or whatever it is, and that's not going to ruin them for life, even if they are young, right? And I also remember being 18 and being 19 and wanting to experience and explore. And so, I think that's sort of a piece of it too, right? That sort of sense of responsibility.
So I'm going to jump a little bit because you really are very good at explaining and covering things in such a complete way that you have covered many of the other questions within some of the other questions. So that's great. And it makes, my job easier. But I want to sort of jump ahead, and in the interest of time, of course. what is one piece of advice
Mm.
that you would give high achieving professionals, especially women, who feel a pull toward lifestyle kink, but a fear of experiencing a career or family fallout? Like if someone is looking at you right now, listening to you right now, and she says, this is something that speaks to me. I just wish I could do this, but I'm so afraid, but you're doing it successfully. Give her advice, speak to her.
Okay, so I mean, first, I've just been very fortunate, obviously, because as I said to you in the pre-call, there are hundreds of people who know who I am, right? They come to my home. Just a hop and a skip. You just look up the address, right? And some of them follow me in my professional life and listen to my content there, right? Where I talk about investing. And people have not made it a priority for themselves to sort of like dox me or kind of expose me. I think instead they've sort of said, we want this to continue. We enjoy this community and we want to sort of protect each other. That's the other piece you're like vetting for, right? It's like you're inviting someone, those 60 people coming to the party, all hands selected as people who are going to have that mentality of let's protect each other in this community, right? So I think I have been very fortunate. I do think about, though, I'm obviously, like a very meticulous person. And so I'm thinking about that kind of risk aversion, right? Yeah, and the older my kids get, the less risk there is for them in terms of something kind of, badly reflecting on them. Once they're adults, when they're in college, like what mom does, is sort of less, right? It's like not less connected to their lives and the lives they're building. From a career standpoint, because I don't accept any money, I'm just trying to play out a conversation, right, with sort of on the corporate side, right? Like, oh, we found out that you are doing something. Okay, is my face ever visible? No. How do you know it's me? Well, we think based on like your body or based on the background of the photo, but that's very speculative, right? There is no face, there is no name. Like it's all circumstantial at that point, right? And again, if there's nothing financially motivated, there's nothing illegal. It's all adult. It's all consensual. It doesn't take away from my career. Obviously, like I've great performance reviews every year, right? Everyone's I'm very committed, so it's not like she's underperforming, she's not focused on work, she's like distracted by something else. So I think about all of those things. If I was to have a conversation, right, if somebody was to try to expose me, like at the end of the day, you go toe to toe and you say, look, I'm an adult and, I'm allowed to sort of do what I want to do in my spare time. And it's, consensual with my husband. It's, this is like, we're all adults and it's 2026. I actually, in my company, I run the ERG, which is the Employee Resource Group for like our LGBT, community. And I raised my hand for that, right? To sort of say, not that it's like, but it's like one step towards acceptance, right? That basically people have different, obviously, right? Like, so their sexuality and there's the reality of what they bring to work with them. And the kind of people that they are. And I do think, I think it's a harder sort of conversation to say that kink is like, it's a lifestyle choice, right? Or versus like your gender that obviously you identify as, but I think it goes towards that sort of acceptance. And I think that even my industry, which is quite a conservative industry, has made enormous strides in the sort of 25 years that I've been there in terms of sort of accepting the whole person and kind of diversity, inclusion. And so, but what I would say to women, I think everyone's in a different situation. If you're an educator and it's going to reflect on you as a teacher, if you're working for the government, you have to kind of know the limitations. I have thought through this, right? Like I don't have a clause in my employment contract, anything like, if I embarrass my company, right, there's something there if I'm using the logo or the name of the business or whatever, but there's nothing that sort of touches on what I do in my private life, but maybe you do as a professional. And so I think you should be smart and not just sort of follow your heart. I think you have to use your brain too, right?
Speaking of being smart, being a project manager, sourcing the right people.
Yeah.
It's all about the people. The people make it, right? What are the requirements for sourcing the right partners?
I'm trying to make sure, like, I'm getting the question. What do you mean? What do I look for?
Well, like, do you view, like, when you're a partner and you seem very business minded, and it's almost like an HR person or a job interview, right? The person needs certain requirements. You're looking at a resume,
Oh, I see.
Right? There's certain requirements, certain keywords show up, certain things, certain skills. You got to, like you said, bring your skills, right? So, what would you say are some requirements for some of these?
Well, like I said, the first requirement is that you sort of don't come in entirely self-interested. And I think you can sense that with people, right? Somebody who's kind of pursuing kink and trying to be additive, right? To bring something to a scene, to bring something to a party, to bring something to a community. So when somebody approaches me, even just let's say for basic, like I want to be a submissive to you, they've read my profile, they address me as Dominas, and they're offering themselves like, I want to serve you in whatever way is going to make you happy, rather than just like,
giving
here's
you
what I
a
want.
list,
right?
yeah.
And then the other thing, and I will be honest about this, I think because everything we just talked about in terms of building a community where everybody's protecting each other, I think you kind of do want people who are like respectful of others' anonymity. Not that everybody has to be anonymous themselves. I mean, I certainly have playmates who share their face, but I think you want people who are balancing, right?
Oh,
Vanilla,
definitely.
like educated people. So I love, like, a lot of my subs are college students, right? But they're building a
Read a
career.
book.
Right, they're building a career, and I'm excited for them. Like the vanilla career that they're going to be building, and I obviously don't want to derail them either, so I keep everybody anonymous. So educated, I love obviously other professionals, but it's a range. I mean, I have very kind of blue collar, right, sort of professions. People play with me, and white collar professions. It's a kind of across the gamut. So it's not necessarily like a social class thing. It's just the way that
you don't have like a fetish for bus boys.
Bus boys. No, nothing like that. No, but I think people who value their health. That's a really
who has a fetish for? Yeah, I never know.
Right, like people who value their health and the health of others. So people who are really conscientious. They're testing. They obviously on a regular basis. They understand that kink comes with risk, but they're trying to protect themselves. Sexual, right? So when somebody asks me about do you use protection in your scenes? Do you ask partners to be tested? That to me is a really great green flag, right? That
yes,
this
absolutely.
is the first thing they're thinking about. So I think, like people who are focused on their own safety and the safety of others, whether that's sort of a health wise or again anonymity, protecting each other. So I think you can sense. Again, I'm a pattern recognition person now, based on how many people I hear from. You can sense the kind of energy that somebody is bringing in.
Of course.
Yes.
And if it's just something that they're kind of they're ashamed of, and they're just trying to do it sort of on the side and it's like seedy. And my brand, I think, and if you ask people, is that kink doesn't have to be seedy. It can be like warm and enveloping and community
and elegant
happy,
and graceful,
and happening daytime in the suburbs. You know what I mean? Like it's not like
it can be very erudite.
Yeah, and so that sort of thing, I think again, you're kind of collecting people around you who have that same perspective. And if there's someone who you run up against this too, this kind of I'm horny and I just want to do this thing, but the minute I'm not horny anymore, I leave it behind.
Right, that's it.
Disgusts me. That's a real turnoff, because it's like not only do you not accept yourself, but then you're probably judging the rest of us. So I think that kind of, again, is somebody really approaching it in an open-hearted way. And I will advise people to even though I myself don't go to a whole lot of munches and things like that, but I have a lot of friends who do, will say try to make friends in the community, try to go to the munches, the events, classes, workshops, learn from people, make friends, build trust. Don't treat it as just kind of like how do I get laid? But in a kinky way, right? Treat it as something real. And it'll treat you back, right? That's how you find your people. That's how you find play. So yeah, taking it out of the seedy, out of the dark, and kind of making it something that I don't know if it's mainstream, but something that that you can really accept, and that can coexist with we've obviously articulated the other parts of my life, right? As a mother, as a financial professional, wife, I don't think it's at odds, right? I'm caring for people in my vanilla life. I'm caring for people in my kink life. None of it feels to me like people will say, "Oh, you're so naughty." I hate some of these words, and I'm like, no, it's anything that carries this very negative connotation, right? I don't like those things. I like when people put it out into the, I guess, the daylight, right? And make it something that,
Sure.
can be really positive.
So I have a question for you. What's the youngest person that you've ever played with? And I'm actually going to take myself out for a moment because this is a live show and my dog is barking at me to go out. So I'll be right back while you answer that. Yes, please.
So obviously when I was 16 or 17, I played with 16 and 17-year-olds. But since I've reached the age of adulthood, I have never, been anywhere near anybody who is not at the age of adulthood. But there are, I mean, I'll be honest, there definitely have been these rare instances where somebody has been 18 or 19, and they're not a typical 18 or 19. They're a very special 18 or 19, very self-possessed, very mature, very, whatever it is that makes me think, okay, they also deserve to experience this kink or this sort of fantasy that they're harboring. And, why is it better for them to seek it out in some, I don't know, like some more seedy sort of orientation, right? Or
I'm telling you this as a man, right?
Yeah.
As you are what I dreamed about. Like someone like you is like meeting someone like you at that kind of age. Like people like you only existed in books and movies for me. You know what I mean? So you you are fulfilling fantasy left and right. That's one perspective.
But I balk at the idea that it's predatory or go ahead.
That's my next question. My next question is, I call it the grooming question, is like, how do you react to that? Say, for example, I had a rest in peace, the editor of my book, Melissa. She loved young men. She did. And I mean, her sister was like, I can't believe you were, I think the kid's like 19 or 20 years old. And she was only 30 at the time, but there is a stigma, and especially in this political climate, in this paradigm shift that's going on with everywhere, right? In the zeitgeist. How do you deal with that? How do people, they see the kink community and automatically they just label them as groomers?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I find this challenging because if somebody is of age, they're of age, right? I mean, the kind of throwaway line is like, if you can serve your country in the military, if you can do this, if you can do that, like, why can't you experience like some impact play and some bondage? Like, what is that going to really do, right?
It was a beautiful woman from New York City.
I also really firmly remember being 18, 19 myself. And actually, when I was 21, I had a lover who was twice my age, and we had an almost 8 or 9 year long relationship. And
oh, wow.
I don't look back and say that this person took any kind of advantage of me. Do you know what I mean? He was like extremely respectful of me as a human being, which is what I'm trying to do for others. And he was kind of meeting me where I was. And I would balk at the idea of anybody telling me at 18 or 19 that I didn't have a right to my own sexuality, to my own ability to explore. Right. So it's very paternalistic. It's sort of very, I don't know. Right. I mean, but there is a lot of this, people kind of coming and judging others, right. For, whatever it is they're trying to do. Like I said, I think that I'm, for every partner, not just the ones who are very young, but I think for every partner I'm thinking about and I'm sort of vetting, whether this is someone, who is sort of mature enough. And again, there are plenty who are twice that age that are not mature. They're hiding from their spouse. They're this, they're that. It's like psychologically very damaging for them. But I think if you find that rare bird, right, that kind of rare instance of somebody who is very young, but is thoughtful, has really, again, kind of thought through their kinks, has been harboring this in their mind for a long time, and they're going to explore it one way or another, right? And they could explore it through, I don't know, Grindr and sort of strangers and potentially risk, or by the way, like, not that I don't hear a ton of stories on FetLife where somebody was blackmailed, exposed, taken advantage of. There's a terrible story that, a young guy told me, and he was probably 18, 19. He met up with a FemDom, like not a true, kind of professional, but just somebody kind of masquerading at a hotel that he paid for. He was, 18 years old, and they were doing kind of whatever, anal exploration. She put a little shampoo bottle, like a hotel size shampoo bottle into him. And it got lost in there. right? Because it's a little shampoo
God.
bottle. Like, of course it's going to get lost, right? He's 18 years old. He's gotten this hotel room. He paid this woman $40 to do this to him. It got lost. She wouldn't take him to the hospital. She wouldn't give him back his $40. And she left him there alone. He had to go and take himself to the hospital, right, to have the thing removed. Like, there's clearly worse situations that somebody can get into. And I think the people who have defended me on my page have sort of said that, right? Here's someone who, number one, again, I'm certainly not playing with everybody who's 18, 19, 20, 21 who's asking. Where it's, again, there's a good connection, the person seems mature, they're ready, and I'm keeping them safe, and I'm making sure that they're, they walk away and they're okay, and they've had a good experience, and right, like, and again, maybe the experience, they wanted to be tied up, they wanted to experience some bondage, they wanted to learn how to eat pussy. Like, I don't think it's a terrible thing. Again, people can disagree, but I will also say that in most of the cases where somebody sort of approached me when they're that young, years later, we're still friends, right? So now they're in their 20s and we still have a connection. And that speaks well too, right? To the fact that they're kind of growing up and they continue to explore, and I continue to be a friend and a mentor for them over time.
That's beautiful. That really is beautiful. So I think we're going to go to the wheel. We are going to go to our wheel. We're going to play a little game. And we usually do the wheel. And I'm going to pull it up on the screen here.
Boethius said in the Symphony Constellation of Philosophy, life is like a wheel.
Yeah.
Life is like a wheel. Don't complain when you're cast down in depths, because sometimes you're up. Good times pass away, yet so do the bad.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Boethius, Constellation of Philosophy. Yes.
I love it. We just came back from a trip to Greece, so I deeply appreciate the
very nice
Greco-Roman philosophical tradition. Yeah.
Very nice. All right, so we're going to spin this, and I've got a few headings on here, and each heading has a little mini prompt for you. So I'm going to give it a spin, and let's see.
Ooh, okay.
The velvet glove. So yeah, I like the scream at the end also. So the velvet glove. So I want you to describe the perfect mommy dom aftercare ritual. That's what we mean by the velvet glove. That's mommy's velvet glove. Describe the perfect mommy dom aftercare ritual that leaves your subbies glowing.
So it's interesting because it's quite ritualistic when a sub arrives and we kind of start the scene. There's all these kind of trappings, right, that go on. There's a collar and a leash and cuffs and maybe a gag and maybe a blindfold, depending on the scene, and maybe, an outfit, usually an outfit of some sort. So there's all these things that you layer on to the person, which makes them not themselves, right? Like, you take off their vanilla clothes, their street clothes, and you turn them into someone else. And for me, a lot of it is somewhat feminizing, like light feminizing. I don't necessarily do sort of full on kind of sissy wig and makeup, but often, it's this kind of light feminization. So a lot of times it's the other side of the coin of that, right? So the person's had an orgasm. It's usually, I usually save that for the end of the scene, because I recognize that for a lot of people, that sort of clarity post-orgasm is going to mean that they're probably kind of done, right? So you're building up the kind of excitement and all of that through the end of the scene, and then they're allowed to orgasm. They've earned it. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is bringing them back. So kind of cleaning them up, taking off the outfit, taking off the cuffs, taking off the collar, taking off kind of all these things, and kind of like almost like reinventing them as their regular self, which they're going to kind of put on their clothes and walk out. And it's, again, that roller coaster analogy, right? That you've had this experience and you've been this person in the moment, but it doesn't have to affect you forever. Now, there's some instances where somebody does leave with the panties on and it's like full of their cum, and they're going to drive home and it's going to be wet on the drive home. And it's like this recollection, this memory of the scene. And there's some instances where that's something that somebody wants, or I want it for them. But for most people, it's this kind of unwinding of what you created when they came in. And that, I think, cuddling, right, is that kind of putting them back as themselves. You're kind of rebuilding them back into the person that they are, because they're going to walk out and they're going to go back to their friends or their family or their whatever, where they probably, maybe are not as out as a kind of a, submissive or kind of a kinky person. And so I think that's kind of my typical ritual.
Very nice. All right. I like it. All right. I'm going to give it another spin. Subby superpowers.
Okay.
Cute. I liked developing this one. It made me smile when I thought of the name. It just popped in my head and I was like, oh, how cute. If you could give every closeted sub one permission slip, whether that be to be who you are, what would it say?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it because it's like a big part of my mantra, but it's the kind of ride the roller coaster, basically, or like don't overthink it, right? I wrote there's a writing on Fed, which is one of the first writings I think I posted about kind of the overthinking. Is that I also hear from people who are in their bless their hearts, they're in their 50s or 60s, and they'll say, I've literally been thinking about this since I was 18, and I've never, right, because maybe they live in a place where there just isn't a kink community around them, or they were married for a long time in a vanilla way, or whatever. And I find that extraordinarily sad, where somebody has spent decades building something up in their minds to such a degree that they've made it really inaccessible. Because I know that actually it's not that inaccessible. You know what I mean? Like it actually could be delivered like fairly painlessly, if they just kind of trusted someone, put themselves into somebody's hands, found a safe outlet for it. So that's kind of my like, don't overthink it, right? Just because you give yourself permission to try something, even if you don't like it, it's not like the end of days. You just don't do it anymore. It's fine, right? And I will say the corollary, the vanilla corollary, is I'm a much older sibling. I have a much younger sibling by like a decade, some. And when she was sort of going through her kind of puberty or kind of maturity and starting to date people, that was the advice that I gave her. Like, if you do something, like you get drunk at a party and you give a blowjob, whatever, like don't like judge yourself afterwards. Like, don't like overthink it. So I did this, that makes me this. Like, it doesn't make you anything. You just had an experience. You didn't like it. Don't repeat it. Right. Like, so
Right.
giving yourself some grace, right? Like letting some of that
Yes.
go. That's the permission slip that I want everybody to have, whether it's again kinksters or kind of more vanilla.
I look at it this way: every experience is a lesson.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
It's true.
All right.
Well, wow. That was fantastic. Thank you for going through our wheel with us and
Sure.
everything that you said. It was a fantastic journey that you shared, and we've gone on it with you tonight. So I want to thank you for this deep and honest and incredibly hot conversation that we have just had, and for showing us what true lifestyle ownership really looks like. You balance boardrooms, bedrooms, first-time nerves. You create lifelong memories, and your journey is really proof that powerful women can have it all without having to compromise. And being authentically yourself is the most important thing to you, and allowing space for others. So thank you so much. I've included links to enjoy learning more about you, as I have. I really enjoyed learning about you. And Sea Aphrodite, how can we connect with you? How can we support you?
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I just want to say that in terms of kind of being able to have it all, like you can, but sometimes not at the same time. So give yourself some grace on that, right? You can have it all, but sometimes not all at once, right? So there will be trade-offs and there are different seasons. And as I said, I had a whole number of years where my body didn't feel like my own, my schedule didn't feel like my own. Like I said, give yourself space because you can, like I said, life is long. For those of us who are lucky, life is long, and you can find right your sort of like I hate the word journey, but you kind of go through your journey. So I also don't want people to put pressure on themselves, like I can do it all. There are trade offs, and sometimes you need to take a break for yourself, and then you come back to it later. So thank you. In terms of support, I mean, it's interesting because I would love to do more pods. Obviously, I've kind of put the word out there that I'm happy to keep speaking to you guys or kind of others. And obviously, I love that people are following the page. I think today I had 197. And I, would love to hit 200. And I don't know where it goes from there. But obviously, like I said, I'm not looking to monetize anything. It's more to me, it's a validation of what I'm showing, right? Which is that, femdom, again, can be lifestyle, it can be authentic, it can be caring, it can be, I don't want to say gentle because I'm not always gentle. I can be quite rough. But it can happen with care and respect, and responsibility. And it's obviously there are alternatives even on that site, right? In terms of things that seem much more exploitative, much more violent, all that sort of stuff. And I think if we kind of vote with the follow, um, then it indicates that this is, and I mean, the profile has grown really quickly, right? I mean, I came onto the site in 2019, and I started at 0, and it's just grown on itself, right? Where people just continue to follow, and they obviously are tracking the stories that I'm sharing. I'm now 6 months behind on content, which is terrible, but I'm sharing stuff from October. And the people in those pictures are patiently waiting, right, for their scene to come up, and they're excited. The next couple, there's going to be some scenes from San Diego, not San Diego, sorry, San Jose, which is a trip that I took in October. Some really wonderful people.
It's
and
the anticipation. I love it.
The anticipation 6 months later, but I'm sort of like 6 months behind on the content, just because it's a lot. And I'm also trying to anonymize everything and make sure everybody's super safe and everybody's comfortable being shared.
Of course.
But I think it's like really I hear from so many people who are like, I really enjoy this sort of journey and these stories and kind of seeing it's like kinky art, but also kind of kinky human stories. Like it was like, what is it? The humans of people of Walmart. There's like an old website. This is like people of kink, right? I'm sort of sharing these people and their experiences, but again, anonymously. So I think the best way to support it is just, like to follow, to comment. I like every comment. I try to like every comment. And then people
Speaking of comments, I'm just going to cycle through some of them while you're talking, just to give space for everybody who's come to share.
Yeah, so comment, try to connect with people. But even when you come to comment, this is the kind of the other thing that I was going to say, like, even if you're not a member of the community in person, you can be a member of the virtual community. And what I hate the most is people who come and comment and say something negative, right? Oh, this person's too hairy or whatever. Think about what that person is doing, which is they're sharing of themselves on a platform that has almost 200,000 viewers anonymously, but they're exposing themselves. They're being vulnerable.
Oh, I think her sound cut out.
They're being right when she was being vulnerable.
I know.
She's talking
so
about being vulnerable. Oh no.
Oh no. She has so much great information to share. Like
what amazing.
So well-rounded.
So
really.
Sea Aphrodite, just so you know, if you're listening, if you're having issues, go out and come back in. And then we could try to fix it. But that was a great show. That does happen, the technical issues. So I did so wanted to do and make it better. This is what I wanted to do though. Just so you know before we go. We know who we're talking about at the Manor. It was his birthday. I wouldn't say he's not Twinkie anymore. But yeah, he basically had a sign, and what he will do and what he won't, and it's his birthday, so it's like sucking cock was a big thing. I saw him everywhere. His dad's card was full. You know what I mean? So I mean, it was at a place like that where not only like I saw that going on everywhere. How can you make that better? So Linus, how could you make it better?
How could I make that better?
If you had a bunch of Twinks, yeah.
If I had a box of Twinkies, yeah.
No, a box of Twinkies. No, but you had a twink on its birthday, and you literally had a dungeon, and you could put anything you want on the sign. That's Oh, is she back?
Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Oh, perfect. I was texting you. I was like, "Oh, come back."
Where I stopped, but just saying like that if you want to support the community, come with warm comments. And like be a friend basically to the people who are in my photos.
Perfect. I love that. So do you want me to answer this, Nick? Or
yes. I want her. I would like her to answer. Yeah. We could cuckold the audience, and you could answer her. You can answer us in person. All right. So we have a game here. We have a game here called Make It Better. And what we do is we take a real situation that we've seen. That's awesome. That's very impressive. At least, that any kinkster would, be lucky to be around. And it's all about improving. How do you make it better? Every day we try to make our lives better, right? You know what I'm talking about. So, all right. It's a twink's birthday. This really happened. This really happened. So it's a dungeon. It's a twink's birthday, and I don't know, something in the air, fondue party, sign around the neck. What we'll do, the do's and don'ts, and basically, please use me as service. Right. The only thing that I can remember of the don'ts was actual pegging, but everything else. And it was something in the air that night. Oh my God. I just saw wild things. It was like in a Stanley Kubrick movie. It was great.
All right. What's the question? Box of Twinkies.
How do you make it better? How do you make it better? You're a Twinkie. It's his birthday. How do you make it better?
I mean, I think like what's his big wish, right? At the end of the day, if it's fantasy fulfillment or it's wish fulfillment, yeah, like what as it comes to me, I guess, what's his big wish, right? Is it like some maybe very special alone time with me, right? People kind of earn that alone time. I don't know. But yeah, if it's his birthday, presumably I've already kind of curated that, right? And that sort of experience where he wants to
we've
be
already
used by
curated
multiple
that.
people. And yeah, so maybe then he earns like after all of that, because obviously that's a very heavy sort of thing to be the focus of all that attention. Maybe I cuddle him overnight. Maybe he gets
a reward.
Stay overnight with me and cuddle in mommy's arms all night long.
I
There
love
you go.
that.
Oh wow! Yes,
That's a beautiful.
And I love cuddly twinks. And I was just in London on a business trip, and I will say I was there for 10 nights.
I love cuddly twinks. That should be a bumper sticker.
I did not sleep alone a single night. I don't sleep alone. I always have I call them like human body pillows, like cuddly little body pillows. So yeah, that's a way that, obviously you make somebody feel loved up.
All right. I have an idea for growl merch. Did you say I love cuddly twinks? The shirt.
I'm gonna get a shirt made for you, Sea Aphrodite. I'm gonna have to get it to you somehow.
What a great way to end the show with aftercare.
It's
been an absolute honor, Sea Aphrodite. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
That's at the end of everything. We should all cuddle each other overnight. That should be the rule.
Right on.
I love that. Thank you so much. And please like and subscribe the Growl here and stay in the know on what we're doing. And thank you so much for being here with us. If tonight stirred something in you guys, please smash that like, subscribe, hit the bell.
This was life
share
affirming.
It was. It was. And I think, you know what, Nick, I know you mentioned it being like a romance novel. I almost felt like it was a paper on ethics, on the ethical practice of, and we just did an episode on ethics, but her practice of kink is just incredibly ethical and kind.
Yes. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay consensual. Keep listening to that inner growl. We appreciate you. We love you. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Be cool, be kind, and keep an open mind.